Welcome to the Back 9 Six-Pack with Mitch and Justin. Let's roll.
Hello and welcome to episode 90 of the Back 9 Six-Pack. My name is Mitch, joined as always by my esteemed colleague Justin. Welcome to wet January, baby. Sorry, wet February.
Yeah, wet February. Yeah, not January.
January was so long, I can't get it out of my head. That's the problem.
It was a tough scene for the February 1st landing on a Saturday.
Tough scene for beer.
I was hungover for 2 days. So, look, I don't think going from 0 to 100 in what I would call less than 4 seconds is advisable. It's not. Your body, it's crazy how much your body heals in a 31-day period. But my tolerance and my ability to fight off hangovers diminished completely. And I was in bad shape on Sunday, still in bad shape this morning until after about 25 minutes in a sauna after working out. So
you and the sweating out of the toxins. It's the only way for you.
It is. It truly is. I think at this point, there's no other way to fight it off other than that. It really isn't.
Yeah, I kind of kept it on the rails. Shout out to my wife, Susie. It was her birthday on Sunday. We went and had a nice dinner, but I kept it tame. We went with an old fashioned and a couple Guinness after.
Oh.
So it was nice. It was nice. No, nice little buzz, but no damage going into Sunday.
Well, good for you, because I didn't have that kind of control. So...
yeah, I know. And well, now on the horizon, we have a man meal coming up on Friday.
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing this shirt tonight.
If you hear any
noise,
only
way.
Just me and the boys bopping. Yep.
Yep.
I respect it. So yeah, I mean that's gonna be the true test. At least for you kind of went way out over the skis already. So you've gotten your sea legs under you again, I suppose.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I we'll see. I'll tell you, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to drink again until Friday. This was the plan. And then I forgot we were recording tonight. I'm like, I got to at least have one when we're recording now that we're at a dry January. Yeah, but I'm excited for Friday. Friday is going to be fantastic. I think it's a start of a good tradition that I think we're going to carry on here. I'm looking forward to it.
Likewise. All right. Well, if you're here, please smash that like button. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the show, rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. Follow us on social media at Back9Sixpack, and send us some fan mail. I know we have a couple to get to tonight later in the show. Look, before we get into golf, there's a lot of golf stuff going on in general. I feel like we got a very robust golf section.
Yes.
But we have to talk Super Bowl. I know it's not the matchup we wanted. But I just had a couple questions for you. Look, the Super Bowl has changed a lot for me over the years. So I'm just kind of curious, what's your viewing setup these days for the Super Bowl?
Well, it's funny. About 5-6 years ago, I guess up till 2020, because we had a Super Bowl party the year of COVID, or I guess right before COVID kind of shut everything down. We used to have a party, and after COVID, never picked back up. But we started going over a neighbor's house for like the first half, and then I come back to my man cave here where we're recording and watch the second half typically. I used to be a big Super Bowl party person. Now I'm more of like a handful of people is perfect amount for me. And then really I love finishing it off, like watching it by myself. Like, I don't know. That's just my take on it. But that's kind of what we do, or recently what we've done.
Yeah, similar story for me. Honestly, the Super Bowl and Super Bowl Sunday, unless your team's playing in it, I suppose, almost has like a somber vibe to it. It's like finally the end of football. You're really entering like the true like downtime of winter, I guess, in the middle of February. So it's almost like a little bit of a funeral kind of vibe to it, It
is. Well, yeah, especially if your team's not in it, you're like, but if your team's not in it, you're like, look, I got to watch one more game, and then it's on to next year where everybody's 0-0 again. I don't hate that vibe about it. I did forget to mention last year I did watch the Super Bowl on the beach in Cabo. There was a little break in there, which was awesome. But yeah, I agree. It is somber because it's the last football game of the year, really until what, August? I don't count the preseason. A game that actually matters if you're a college football fan, I think is like August 27th or something like that. So
Yeah.
we're gonna go a long stretch without football here. However, I do like the kind of like the moving on. Okay, everybody's 0-0 again after Sunday.
That's true too. You do reset the clock on the calendar, so to speak, on the football year, and it's, you're on a free agency in the draft, and you're back on the upswing of looking up to your team's season
Yep.
versus the end of it. So that's a good part of it.
Yeah, and I like when, like, I think in May the schedule comes out, with times and everything like that. Specifically, us planning maybe a trip to Lambeau for the Bengals game. I'm looking forward to kind of getting the times and when things are going to happen. That's not that far away. So
No, that's one thing the NFL is really good about, like keeping themselves relevant monthly, even in the off season.
literally every month or something. So
Yeah, free agency draft, schedule release, and you're pretty much on to OTAs and all season workout stuff. So yeah, food play for the draft or for the Super Bowl. What's your go-to?
I mean, there's no other thing other than chicken wings, right? Like, I feel like that's we'll get pizza. I think we're VIP at no free ads, but La Rosa's Pizza. We are VIP at our local La Rosa's. I'll probably do that and then wings from somewhere else. But I think wings is the go-to. I feel like there's really no other play than that.
Yeah, we usually just order the wings and then we'll like get a bunch of different sides to make or apps to make or whatever to go with it, and just
for sure.
it becomes like an all evening snack fest, which is really where I shine. So
I'll tell you about, I think, 2020, February 2020, we had a pretty decent Super Bowl party in this basement here, and we did Tex-Mex, like taco, build your own tacos. Not gonna lie, it was pretty good. We went away from the wings like we usually did, but I think that was pretty good too, because you can that's the same thing. You can kind of snack on that. Like, you go for two, an hour later, you kind of hungry again. You can go back up and get another one. And the place we ordered from, their chips and salsa and queso are off the charts. So that is also a play too. I wouldn't judge anybody if they did that.
No, I think key elements are like something handheld and like the ability to graze, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think you can do that with wings, even pizza, any kind of like build your own taco. I'd even say cater and Chipotle wouldn't be a bad play because you can kind of graze that a little bit too. So
yeah, for sure. All right. Last thing on the Super Bowl. I think we need to go on the record with a pick. Not what the heart wants. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I look, we've reached Tom Brady territory with Patrick Mahomes. If you are willing to put your hard-earned money on anything other than him, and you lose, it's just like insanity. You just keep doing it over and over and expect something different to happen. The first time I ever put money on, I was telling the story the other day. First time I put money on Tom Brady was the Super Bowl against the Falcons, and I was like, of course, the first time I bet for him to win, and it's here we go, 28-3, and then he ends up coming back, and then I remember being heavily intoxicated and being like, that's why you bet on Tom Brady. But I did. I said it last year at the Super Bowl party I was at. I'll say it again this year. If you bet on anybody other than Patrick Mahomes and you're probably guaranteed to lose, it's on you. Like, that blood is on your hands. I'm going the Chiefs. I'll tell you, Philadelphia has struggled against lesser defenses pretty much the entire year, but specifically, like Washington's defense is not good. So it's going to be an outlier. Everybody's like, well, look, they're coming off the best offensive performance they've had in probably since the Bengals game, honestly. But it's an outlier because Washington's defense is not good. They're going up against a defense that is really, really, really good. I think Philadelphia is going to struggle to score. I really do. I think it's in general, it's going to be a low scoring game, but I think Philadelphia is really, like, even on the drives they can kind of put together, they're going to kick field goals and not score touchdowns. Like, Saquon's good, but when they can line up Chris Jones and all that and really make Jalen Hurts like beat them, it's going to be tough. It really is going to be tough.
Yeah, I was trying to let myself buy into, like, this is going to be, I think it's going to be kind of a trenches game, right? Because Philly wants to run the ball. Good offensive line for them. Defensive line for the Chiefs is good. The Eagles have a great defensive line. The thing is, I want to believe in the Eagles. I do. But where Philly can win on the defensive line is up the middle. And that's honestly where the Chiefs are good. Their weakness on their offensive line is the tackles.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that they've got the edge presence to keep the heat on Mahomes. If they win in the inside, it could be game on. But I just have a feeling
that's where the strength is. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got Creed Humphrey's he's an all-pro center. That's so they kind of negate that a little bit. But I think that's the trenches are going to be where the game is won for me.
Well, and to me, this is and I guess I kind of look at it that way too, right? Let's just say, both teams take away the run game and it essentially becomes a quarterback battle, right? Well, who are you taking? You taking Jalen Hurts or you taking Patrick Mahomes? I'm taking Patrick Mahomes 100 times, 1,000 times out of 1,000 times in that battle. Maybe Jalen Hurts wins 1 out of 1,000 times, right? But I mean, if that's the case, then it becomes who has the better quarterback. As crazy as it is, KC wins that battle a lot, right? When it just comes down to who's got the better quarterback, we do. Okay, then you're good. Then they win, right? So I don't know. I agree. I think honestly, it'd be cool to just get a camera on the offense and defensive line of both teams and just watch them kind of go at it all game. It should be pretty epic, I would think.
Yeah, it's a 1.5 spread. Assuming it's a close game, you just don't bet against the Chiefs in a close game. If it's a 1-score game, look, they've won 17 straight. What you're gonna bank on history not happening, right?
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah, again, if you bet against them, it's just I can't help you, right? It's kind of one of those things. You've seen enough that I can't help you if you bet against the Chiefs in this game. Now, you could bet against Philadelphia and still want Philadelphia to win. But as far as a betting situation goes, if you put any money on the Eagles, I don't know what to tell you. So,
yeah, I know. I'm hopeful it's at least a good watch, right? We've talked all season long about how these teams are kind of tough to watch, but if you get a close ball game in the Super Bowl, you can't really ask for much else. So.
I don't think there's going to be a ton of scoring. I would be shocked if there was a ton of scoring.
That's kind of how I'm feeling too, which means everyone should go hit the over right now.
So. Well, it's crazy. I was getting ready, trying to build some touchdown parlays. I'm dude, I don't know if I want to do more than a couple touchdowns, 2 guys. Usually in a game I'll do 3 or 4. It's okay, there's going to be 3 or 4 touchdowns, right? This game, it's man, it's maybe you get 3 touchdowns and a handful of field goals. That's kind of what it feels like it's going to be. But I was on a heater. I'm not anymore. So maybe just go exactly opposite. Just fade the shit out of me and take the over.
Yeah, I think it depends who takes control early. If the Chiefs take control early, I think it speeds up. I think the game will be quicker. But the Eagles will just try to grind it out if they're in control early. Yeah. So that's kind of what you got to figure. Make a guess on what you think is going to happen there. I think.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, we're both on the record. Think the Chiefs are going to win. I'm sure we
have
both
a score. I have a score in mind. If you want me to.
Yeah. What do you like?
I like 2017.
2017. Okay. Are you thinking last second field goal or?
No, I think the Chiefs get up 10 and kind of hold on to that, and maybe the Eagles get some kind of late, touchdown or a couple field goals that kind of tighten things up a little bit. But I don't think it'll be a last second field goal situation.
Yeah, I kind of think it might be, just because that seems to be what happens. Last second field goal or score. I'm gonna go. I kind of want to pick a weird score. I don't know any score.
2016 or something weird like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking 23-18 or something. Just weird.
Well, and I was going to tell you that the only way I could see the overhitting, and I'm looking it up now, I think it's 42.5. I could be completely wrong about that, but I thought that's the number I saw. But don't rule out a defensive touchdown in this game.
You're right. Yeah.
These defenses are freaking ball hawks. Philadelphia's especially. Even in Mahomes wins, like there's been moments where it's like you get that one throw before he kind of tightens the screws a little bit. But like you get that one throw and it's, who knows? You know what I mean? But
I think
Casey's defense also likes they turn the ball over a lot. So it wouldn't surprise me if the over hit on something stupid like that, like a team trying to come down and tie it up or something like that, and then you get a defensive touchdown that takes it over.
I think this would put me on the over, but I think I'm going to go 26-24 Chiefs.
Okay.
They barely cover. They win on a last-second field goal.
It's 48.5. Man, that's a lot. That's seems like
saying.
A lot.
26-24 would be 50, so that would technically be the over. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. I'm really curious to see how the game is officiated, just because like we've kind of been talking. Like I think the narrative is like the pendulum has swung a bit, and I really think that at some point the NFL has to at least like have a conversation about this, about like we can't just like hand this over kind of thing.
Yeah. It would be crazy if this was the game that they kind of started like trying to toy with that, with the feeling that everybody's got and be like, look, they got so many bad calls in the Super Bowl this year. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, not even
gaslight the shit out of everybody. Just like,
right.
Like, what are you guys talking about? The biggest game of the year, they got the worst calls of the year. Something stupid like that.
I think there'll be a moment where somebody from Philly is gonna try to hit Mahomes, and it's gonna be like, all right, are they throwing the flag or are they not? And then we'll know.
Yeah, and then we'll know. Like, okay, how is this being? Yeah. My favorite bet that I saw that, speaking, because I was like, I think this is going to be a defensive game and maybe some field position stuff. I think I'm going to place a small bet on a safety happening.
Okay.
If you do have a defensive battle, you get some field position punts, get them pinned back. I could see that happening. Maybe sprinkle a little bit on that. I think it's pretty good odds too. I want to say if I saw it correctly. If it was either team, I think it was like plus 850 or something like that, or plus 950. So,
yeah, I'm trying to find one that I always like, especially in Eagles games, is if there's going to be an octopus or not.
Oh, I love that.
Because you're always live with the tush push, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
and they'll do it on a 2-pointer too. Yeah.
That's what 100%. I mean. So, yeah, if Hurts scores and they go for the tush push on the 2-point conversion, I think that one's a pretty good look. I have no idea what the odds are on that. I can't really find it right now, but that's always a good look. There was one I saw somebody mentioned it's plus money if you think the game will not end on a kneel down. That's an interesting look if you think that there could be if you could, potentially last second field goal to win, or someone's trying to drive to tie it up, or
15 seconds left or something like that.
Yeah, so that's one that I saw kind of floated out there, but yeah, I'm gonna track down that octopus one. If it's good enough odds, I'm gonna get in on that one.
Yeah, the octopus, I'm looking at it right now. Just if you're curious, yes is plus 1,300.
Oh hell yeah, we're getting in on that.
Special teams or defensive score by either team is plus 295. That's not great. I don't like that. Yeah. No.
The touchdown markets have been crushed, man. Those used to be fun bets, and they're just so tough now.
Yeah, especially with the Eagles, because they just can't make the odds high, good enough for, it's like Jalen Hurts is plus 100 to score a touchdown. Like, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. But, you take that more than you wouldn't, right? But it's like you almost can't even do minus money on him because it's a quarterback still. So I think especially with the Eagles, they've probably been kind of crushed a little bit. So.
All right. The official Back 9 6-pack bet is in. I have placed, yes, there will be an octopus.
All right, I'll put some money on that too.
Yeah, join me out here. All right, everybody enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend. It's been a long NFL season, and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, on to some golf. Let's start off best thing you saw in golf this week. We'll start off on a high note here.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I've been waiting for this one. Not only because he's a Lexington native, and he's a Kentucky fan, but Josh Teeter won in Panama this week. Essentially down to his last starts that he had. Made the cut in the Bahamas, so like right on the number. had to get up and down. Shout out to Monday Q for kind of telling that story. He was down in the Bahamas for that. And then he gets a win. And honestly, anytime you win on the Corn Ferry, one, you get automatic status. He's going to get automatic starts now. And we're down to 20 cards. But when you get a win, and if you can kind of pull together the rest of the year, it doesn't even have to be that great. You're going to be in the running for one of those 20 cards pretty, or at least in the front running for one of those 20 cards if you get a win. So, so shout out to Josh Teeter. I think awesome story. He's been, you want to talk about like nomad grinder. He hadn't won since 2009. So really cool story. I suggested, I don't want to go through his whole story, but if you haven't heard his story and know what he's been through and all that, and highly suggest you doing some reading about that. Monday Q info on X has done a lot on him. So, but I'm glad he got a win this weekend.
Yeah. So that's funny that you went there because I'm also going there, and also via Monday Q info on
Oh
Twitter.
yeah, okay.
Did you see what happened during the Panama Championship?
No, I heard about it, but I did not see it.
I didn't see it either, but just reading about this, like, okay, so essentially there was a construction site and they were doing some demolition work.
Yeah.
And so they had to send the Corn Ferry Tour had to send out a text to all players and caddies, and it goes, due to blasting from the construction site left of hole number 15 today between 12:30 and 1, no play will be allowed on hole 15 during that window. Minimal to no physical impact is expected, but for everyone's safety, the hole must remain empty until the blast is complete. So they had to essentially disallow play for a half hour on one hole because they were setting off dynamite.
Oh, that's awesome. It is like the most like sub PGA Tour story. You hear these stories sometimes, you're like, that's the shit that happens when you're not on the PGA Tour. Like, you know, you see the stuff that happens all the time at Monday qualifiers and things like that, and Q school and all this stuff. But like, that's the stuff. It's just like you have no idea about, and like especially that happens on that tour. That I did read that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean that's like serious mini tour shit, and I wouldn't expect that on Corn Ferry. So.
That is kind of mini tourish. Yeah, it's not maybe specifically Corn Ferry.
Right,
gives off major Hooters tour vibes. You know,
exactly.
Oh
man,
we do a worst in golf? I feel like we haven't done one of those in a while.
Sure, yeah. If you want to, let's do it.
So worst thing I saw was today. Bandon Dunes now does a drawing for their tee times a year out. I think it's the worst thing in golf only because now that I've booked the trip to Scotland, it's like final price has been narrowed down. I think it's crazy that American golfers will pay that price. And look, I've heard Bandon Dunes is unbelievable, right? Like I've heard it's unbelievable. But like for cheaper or maybe even the same price, you can go play at the Home of Golf or go to Ireland and play where golf originated. Like I think it's more of a golfer problem than a Bandon Dunes problem. So many people, look, shout out to their marketing department, because if they're getting that many people that want to pay $8,000 or $10,000 or whatever it costs to play there, shout out to them. But I think it's like the worst thing is like we need to educate people on the fact that like there are so many other great places to take a golf trip. Maybe not the most mainstream. Bandon is becoming very mainstream, and it makes me kind of sad because their whole start was like very like this mystical place out in Oregon, and now it's very mainstream. So, and it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad to see.
I think really it's just a symptom of the fact that like American golf, like the system is just broken, and it has been for a while.
broken.
You go over to Europe and especially in Scotland and stuff, like it's so easy to join a club. You can get on at private clubs like fairly easily. Everything is just so like exclusionary in America in golf.
It really is. And then maybe that's more what it boils down to. Cause like I can tell you, like, you know, we're playing the old course. We're playing 2 other St. Andrews courses for about the price you pay to play Pebble Beach. Like, think about that for a second. the old course, the like golf invented in this area of the world, and I'm paying the same price for 3 rounds that I would pay to go play Pebble Beach. Like, that shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen.
No.
Now, kudos to Scotland and Ireland and some other European countries I've heard not that expensive to play golf. Shout out to them for keeping it relatively open. But yeah, it blows my mind. And it makes me sad for actual golfers, because it's like, dude, like, look, Bandon's great, but like, go to Indiana. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Indiana has 10 courses that, look, they're not as good as Bandon, but they're pretty fucking good courses. Like, I just wish people would be a little more open-minded and honestly, like, I guess maybe that's what it is. Is like, just, it's so exclusionary over here. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
When you go book rounds outside the country, you really find out like how much like the American golfer is getting bent over, essentially.
Yeah, and it's just part of the culture. Like, golf is, for whatever reason, became the status symbol, and all this stuff, and just came out being a private club member and all that, and it just wasn't built that way in Scotland and stuff like that. Like,
No.
there's still clubs, but it's like very like community based. People like,
yes,
it's about like having a good walk with friends or people, you meeting people, that kind of thing. And here it's just like, all right, what bag tag can I get? You have to have a certain amount of income just to like you said, go play at Pebble Beach or go play, book a trip at Bandon Dunes. And then a step further, you have to also win their lottery, right? So it's like,
yeah,
it's just too tough to play. And these are quote unquote public courses in instances like Bandon, right? So that's really tough, truly.
Yeah, so I guess maybe it's not a Bandon. I guess I'm not taking a shot at Bandon, but I think I'm taking a shot at our golf system, maybe. It's just like highlights the failures of our golf system. I will say we've gotten a little better in certain areas. Like, I think the PGA Junior League is an area that we've gotten a lot better at. It gives kids access for really not that much money to play golf on really nice golf courses. Heck, our little tiny club, we play, the 3 teams in our division are like 3 of the nicer courses in Cincinnati, right? Like, and my kids at 8 years old get to go play those golf courses. So we've gotten better in those areas, but I still think, like, from the general golfer, like, the golf trip that used to cost you $700, that doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. Like, for the most part, or $1,000 bucks. God, you can't even take one for $1,000 bucks, right? And it makes me sad because some of the best golf trips I've ever gone on have been the least expensive. But I think having access to courses that are like really good, it's non-existent anymore, I guess is the better way to put it.
Yeah, I hate it. You're right. It's tough.
No shot at Bandon. I do hate the fact that it's become super mainstream, and it bothers me a little bit for whatever reason. And honestly, some of the Wisconsin courses are becoming that way. Courses that I heard about 15, 20 years ago, now it's like the Instagram popular place to go take a golf trip to. And that drives me insane, by the way. I hate that. Hate it.
Yeah, I don't know. You're a little bit more tapped into that than I am, I would say. But overall, I just think that, like, it should just be easier for golfers in this country to go play some of our best golf courses, essentially.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and the worst thing that we have in America, and this is the last thing, I swear to God, we'll move on, but the worst thing that we have attached to playing nice golf courses is you have to stay in the resort to play the golf course. So, like Pebble Beach, right? Not only is that round of golf $650 plus a caddy makes it $825, you now have to pay $800 a night to stay in their resort. The craziest, dumbest thing in the world. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of these have just become these, like, I don't want to say they're cookie cutter because, like, every golf course is different and all that, but, like, they're becoming these. It's like the same thing, right? It's just in a different place. It's a destination resort with golf courses.
Yep.
And it's here's your different tiers of package, your 3-round, your 4-round, your whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you're going to eat at the, every place is going to have their microbrewery. They're going to have their bourbon bar. They're going to have their cafe and their nice upscale. Like it becomes the same experience, just in different places. And that's, to me, that's like where I'm so jealous of you going to Scotland, because it's like that to me is like true golf culture.
Yes.
And I want to experience that.
Think about it. Every town you go into, like when we go play Crail, right? There's probably going to be some random pub that you probably, to most people, will be like, oh, it's the same thing as, the Jigger Inn or whatever that is that's right by St. Andrews. But it's not, right? That's maybe what our problem is, right? Is it's the resort golf and the need or the want to build those places, because while like St. Andrews has 3 courses, it's not a resort, right? It's a town. You go into this town. There's, I think they have 4 courses, but like you have these courses that supply the town, right? It's not like, oh, here's these courses. We're going to build a mini town in here that it's a resort. I think that's more the problem than actual, like, that makes it expensive, right? I think is probably what I'm getting at.
For sure.
Like, there's no option to be like, I'm going to go stay in a $99 a night Holiday Inn and go play these courses. You can't do that.
No.
Like, we're staying in a $100 a night hotel, a Staybridges suite, because we can, right? Like, St. Andrews doesn't be like, oh, you've got to stay in our hotel to play here. You don't have to do that. No. So maybe that's more the issue.
Yeah, I just think it truly comes down to a culture problem in golf.
Yep, it is. 100%.
All right. Well, speaking of Pebble Beach, Rory McIlroy wins the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. 27th career win on the PGA Tour. He's had 8 straight seasons with a win. A couple of nuggets, too, from golf.com. With the win, McIlroy became the first player since Phil Mickelson to win 27 times on the PGA Tour. He also became the 3rd player in the last 30 years to have 27 PGA Tour wins and 4 or more majors that joined Phil and Tiger. I mean, I think a big win for him, obviously. Get him one of these signature events. He's had his bugaboos with Pebble in the past. But I will say every Rory win lately feels like, I don't know, it feels like he's like held on. It feels too nervy for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know how else to say
I kept thinking the whole time, I'm like, oh God, how's he going to blow this? Like, or how is this going to be a lot closer than it probably should be?
Yeah.
I kind of felt that way the whole last round watching it.
Like, even him in his post round, he was like, oh, well, if Shane made that putt on 17, like a 2-shot lead's a lot different than a 3, which is all true. But like, man,
God, that's what's going through your head.
Yeah, you're up multiple shots. You're like, why are you thinking about that already? He didn't even hit the putt yet. Like, geez. So I don't know. That part always scares me. But like, I don't know. A good early season win for Rory feels. I like that just in terms of how it sets up for the golf season.
Feels new. You know what I mean? Compared to in the past seasons. Yeah.
Well, a lot of times he'd go to like Abu Dhabi or Dubai and he'd win over there. And like,
whatever.
It's like a win that happens in the night. You don't really see it. For him to win a elevated event at Pebble with some conditions, like that all felt very real.
Yeah. It feels like he's trending for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I like when a player of his caliber wins early in the season. It feels like, okay, the season's like ramping up now. Like,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that event kind of feels like it's like, okay, the West Coast swing sucks that we're not going to be at Riv. Riv is one of my favorite courses on tour. But it does feel like it's getting ramped up at this point. Waste Management feels like the kickoff to the season to me. Like Pebble and then Waste Management feel like the big kickoffs to the season. Not trying to diss the Sony Open or anything, but did you see the line that Rory was taking on 14?
Yeah.
Out there. It is just sick. By the way, that was like heralded as like one of the last true par 5s on the PGA Tour. Not anymore.
No. No. So Jamie Kennedy had a good tweet too. This was Rory's last week. He played a TGL match against Tiger. He played Cypress Point for the first time. He made a hole-in-one at Spyglass. He won a signature event at Pebble Beach. And he made $3.6 million during all of that.
That sounds like an awesome week.
Pretty decent week for one Rory McIlroy. So yeah, that's, already, did you see him? I forget what day it was, but he was walking in and he had sort of like a green jacket on. all kinds of tweets going around like, "Oh, is this going to be the only one he wears this year?" Stuff like that. Yeah, win at Pebble won't do anything to quiet the Augusta.
No,
So.
and you know what I do like, and I saw it in a couple of his interviews this week. He doesn't shy away from that, right?
No.
Like he's like, I'm here to win Ryder Cups. I want to win a Masters, and I want to win a gold, an Olympic medal. Like that. That's what his in his head that his career boils down to. Like these wins are nice, but that's now his career in a nutshell, right? That's what he wants, and I don't disagree with that list. For him, it's just the things that, one, he loves the Ryder Cup. Two, he doesn't have an Olympic medal. And three, like he needs a Masters. Like it's going to be a stain on his resume until he gets a Masters. It just is what it is.
I did think it was funny too in his post-run interview. He mentioned that a lot of people kind of question like the golf courses that he has won at. Like it hasn't been necessarily a hitter's row, so to speak.
Yeah.
So he had a good line about anytime you win, he referred to Pebble as like one of the cathedrals of golf. And how special that was. That. Yeah, how special it was to win on a course like that. So I thought that was good of him. I one of my favorite things about Rory is just like his vulnerability, his honesty, and like he's very self-aware.
He is. Yes.
For like a major star in the sport of golf. So I appreciate that about him. All right, top fives and notables here. Shane Lowry with a solo second. Tied for third, Lucas Glover and Justin Rose. Tied for fifth, Russell Henley and Cam Davis, who had a ridiculous up and down,
dude,
from the root on 18.
Well, and did you see the birdie he made after hitting the ball on the green?
Yeah,
like, dude, from that to like the root shot on 18 was just like, what is happening right now?
I don't know, but that was an electric shot from the roots there. Couple other notables: Scotty Scheffler finished T9 in his return, also led the field in strokes gained approach. So. Game on for Scotty. He's back at it. T48 for JT, our boy. Tough.
Yeah, just too many bogeys.
Get it going. Too many bogeys. He could not get it going on Pebble at all. His only strokes gained stat that was any good was around the green, which is bad. That means you're missing all the greens. So not good there. And then finally T69, Jordan Spieth. He shot a 79 on Saturday.
Yeah, I saw that.
Let me pull this up real quick. Let me see. He made a 9 on 18 on Saturday. He blows it way right. OB has to re-tee it. Then he hits it over into the beach. Has to take a drop. Hits it to about 54 feet from there. It's a 6 shot, and then 3 putts for a 9.
Nice.
So yeah, he tough. I think he shot 41 in the back 9 there. But then turned around bogey free 67 on Sunday. So
yeah,
maybe a little bit of knocking off the rust. I think it's a good sign. He's playing again here in Phoenix, like playing back-to-back weeks.
Yep.
I think if he shows health, let him knock the rust off, and we'll see where we're at come April.
Yeah.
All right. One other note here. So, we talked last week about kind of just like pro golf product and how things are struggling, and how golf fans are kind of being asked to pay attention to a lot of different things, and none of them are necessarily ideal. And then the next day, Rory McIlroy takes to the microphone in the press center at Pebble and was kind of asked about like how ratings are down and what's going on with the deterioration of the pro game and stuff. So I'm going to read his quote in response to that. He goes, "I think it already has been, I think it has already been diminished. I would say, yeah, look, the one thing about like TGL is only going to last 2 months. You get this sort of big burst in January, February, and a little bit of March, then it's done. It's gone for 10 months, basically. I would say that is hopefully somewhat additive to the ecosystem. YouTube is like golf entertainment adjacent, whatever. Those guys are killing it. They found a niche, and it's really cool, and it serves a purpose for a lot of people. But look, I would much rather sit down and watch real golfers play real tournaments, and that's just my opinion. That to me is more entertaining, but I understand that other people want something different, and that's totally fine as well. I think there's space for all of this. Yeah, I can see when the golf consumer might get a little fatigued of everything that's sort of available to them. So to scale it back a bit, maybe a little more scarcity in some of the stuff that we do, like the NFL, I think might not be a bad thing. Something we've said for a while. Like, let's have an actual season, not play 50 out of 52 weeks of a year and just condense things a little bit.
He's not wrong. The one, and again, you kind of start running into the, we've got 100 and probably 200 guys that have, PGA Tour cards, if you want to call it that. So it's tough. So I don't know how you handle that, but like them only playing like 26 weeks probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Like it really wouldn't be from a product standpoint. Cause like, let's just say like Pebble was 2 weeks ago, right? And we had a week off and now we're going into the waste management. I can tell you that I would be exponentially more excited about the waste management. Waste management's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to watch, but like the buildup of events, like when they're not every single week. I think he's on to something there.
Yeah. I mean, if you just go, I'll tell you right now. So you mentioned being excited for waste management. Then we get Genesis, which is unfortunate. It's not at Riv, right? But then you go over to the Mexico Open at Vedante, the Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches. That's what used to be the Honda. Like those 2 weeks, you really need both those tournaments? Probably not. It's not going to be. You're going to get a handful of top 30 players at those, maybe.
Coming off these two, 3 weeks in a row, I highly doubt you may get. If you're talking like top 50 in the world, you might get like 4 guys. You know what I mean? That are like top, like legitimately top 50 in the world. Like I know Shane Lowry loves playing the Cognizant or what used to be the Honda, just because he's like lives close to there. But like outside of that, like there's just random guys in there.
100%. And then you roll right into the Arnold Palmer, which is a signature event. Elevated event, and then the Players Championship. And then you got another run: Valspar, Houston Open, Valero, Texas Open, before you get to the Masters. So it's like there's just so much.
Yeah.
So much.
It's a lot. It is a lot. Weird Rory taking after his run-in with Bob Does Sports at a gas station. Now he's talking about YouTube golfers. It's kind of funny.
Exactly. Bob thanked him for all he does for YouTube. So now he's trying to get his foot in the game.
If he really wanted to be an alpha in that comment, he would have brought up Bob.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. That would have been real. Actually, would have been really funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, for one and done. So hopefully nobody actually tailed us. Last week on the show, we talked about taking Ludwig. It came to Wednesday afternoon. I was seeing tweets about how he still wasn't feeling great. You and I both kind of in our gut. I shot you a text. I was like, man, I'm just not feeling good about Ludwig. You're like, good.
I agreed with you. Yeah.
I was like, all right, we're going to pivot. So we took JT. We, in reality, took JT in one and done. That looked awesome after the first day. Not so awesome at the end of it. He finished, like we said, T48. He only racked up 48.6K for us. We are in 2,830th place, so kind of mid-pack right now with a measly $265,000. We need a little bit of a bounce back here would be great. It sucks when you get a signature event and you just don't like you got to have like a top 10 or something just to like that's the so juice you need it. We did not get it, so kind of got to swing for the fence a little bit here. Do you got a certain lean at all?
Man, I want to ride with a hot hand that's not necessarily like the biggest name in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's
only like 9.2 million in the pot.
Yeah, it's not a gigantic pot. So I'm like, well, I want to ride with a hot hand that is not necessarily someone we're going to use down the road. And the first two names that came to my mind are, look, I know you don't like them, but Tom Kim.
I knew you were going here.
And Sepp Straka. Like, Sepp Straka is playing some really, really good golf right now.
Yeah.
He had some mishaps on Saturday, a couple mishaps on Sunday that probably kept him out of really going after a win this past weekend. But yeah, those were the first two names. Is like, these guys are playing really good. They're probably two guys that we probably wouldn't use down the road in an elevated or something like that. Feels like, yeah, just kind of riding the hot hand, I guess.
Yeah, I don't hate either. I looked a little bit at Tom Kim myself. He finished T7. Last year here, he was T17. That's his best finish at Waste Management. Sepp, obviously playing well, coming off the win in the T7. but he's got pretty rough history at Scottsdale specifically. He hasn't played it in the last 2 years. Kind of has me off Sepp a little bit. We can put a pin in Tom Kim though. I kind of want to. I feel like this is just like a scorer's place, you know. Like I think you got to score to play well here. He's not playing well, but like course history is pretty good for Sahith.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I had a third one, and he was like the next one down that I was like, you know,
yeah, it just
might
scares
not
me
be a bad.
His form's just not been good, really.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, I think we'd be looking kind of like down the board if we were going to do outside of either Tom Kim or Sahith, I think.
Yeah, like, well, what kind of came to my mind was like a Robert McIntyre or something like that. He was another one that I was like, if we went down the board a little further.
If you want to get wild, we don't have to do this, but just hear me out. Sam Stevens is playing good golf.
Good God.
And that's a reach.
That's a deep cut there.
But he finished second at Farmers, T17 at Pebble Beach. He had a T28 here last year at Scottsdale. But like I said, that's a 70-1 trying to call your shot kind of move that I don't necessarily love. The problem is like there's just like nobody that's like standing out as playing well. Like,
I mean, other than those two guys, I mean, like Sepp's had a pretty good start to the year. Tom's seems like he's kind of coming to form after last week.
I'm down to play Tom Kim if you want, because
I think he's the one that like initial gut feeling. I'm like, I knew he's played well here. He's playing what seems like he's playing pretty well right now. I think he's gonna. Did they announce the lineups for? Well, he's not playing tomorrow, is he? No, Jupiter's not playing tomorrow. When I watched, I am in another one and done, and I took Tom Kim this week. So,
nice.
Because I was just like, man, I'm watching. I'm like, look, I know it's simulator golf, but I'm like, kind of gave me a good feeling. Like I don't know, but yeah, I think we got to play him. I feel like it feels like a place he's gonna win. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to do okay with the crowds and stuff. So, like, I don't think
that's
what
I'm saying. It's like, yeah, that's more, I guess, maybe where I was coming from too. Is like he does good in a ruckus, kind of raunchy, loud crowd. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't love Tom Kim, but like this is good. This gets him out of my life then for this.
Yeah, we'll never talk about him again.
Don't worry about him the rest of the season. So.
Unless he wins this weekend.
Yeah, then all will be forgiven. I'll forget Tom Kim. All right, we're going to make Tom Kim the official Back Nine Six Pack one and done pick of the week. Glad to do that. Quick TGL. Our squads are playing one another tomorrow night.
God.
Big showdown, Boston Common against LAGC. Boston Common's rolling out the same lineup as last week. Rory, Adam Scott, Keegan Bradley. LAGC, you're getting the day. Is it Tommy's debut, or did he play last time as well?
He did not play last time.
Yeah, so Tommy's debut, and then Colin Morikawa, Justin Rose. Sahith on the bench because he's in Phoenix, obviously. So,
yep.
I think this just comes down to we got to have something on the line here, just for fun.
We have to.
My initial thought was, the loser for next week's show has to chug a beer before they're allowed to speak.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Okay.
End it there. That's what we're doing.
All right, that's where the stakes are: a chugged beer with no word. You may be doing the show intro because Boston Common. I'm worried. But yeah, that'll be the stakes for that one. Looking forward to catching a little bit of that tomorrow night.
That's such a good one.
Nice. All right, I'm glad you like that. All right, we're on to fan mail. So, shout out to Henkel, who wrote in a couple different things here. One, our conversation about sports figures that we enjoy and either movies or shows or whatever. Of course, this is the least shocking thing of all time that Hinkle is a big Kenny Powers fan from Eastbound and Down. So that thank you, sir, for that. I like I said, not shocked at all that he's a Kenny Powers guy. But the other thing he mentioned was he is pushing for us to do a Back Nine Six Pack road trip. I guess Liv
that. Yeah,
Liv is having an event in Indianapolis in mid-August. Maybe tack on a few of our own, rounds of golf with that. One small problem with that is life news for me. We're expecting a child in early August. So
Yeah, shout out
Yeah.
to you. Yeah,
Thank you.
you and
Thank you.
Susie. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I think a 2-week-old will be in my hands at that time. I don't think I'm going to make it to Indy for live golf, unfortunately.
I might have to represent us.
Would be great. Yeah, we'll send out some correspondence on my behalf. That'd be, you guys go enjoy yourselves. And the other one, your brother shot us a text, which this is probably the oversight of the century on our part. This is really bad.
Yeah, I can't believe this. This is one of my favorite shows, by the way.
Yeah. So Jason writes in and was like, "How did you guys forget about Ted Lasso?"
Ted is like, oh, God. So, spoiler alert: we are going to do a separate episode where for March Madness, where we've already started the list, where we're gonna do a bracket of an entire bracket, maybe even a couple playing games because the list is getting deep. Specifically in the coaches section, the list is very, very talented. But we are going to do a separate episode from our normal episode of a bracket for
Fictional sports characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a committee working on the seating. Like you said, there are probably going to be some Lenardi, first team out bombs and all that being dropped. Yeah, tough. We're 68 or 68 figures, 64 figures, whatever we want to do. Have a couple playing games. Yeah, the coaches list is deep. You're right. So
if I have anything to do with it and I am on the selection committee, I am going to do everything in my power to keep Rudy out of the tournament.
That's going to be tough. We'll see if you get the votes or not on that one.
I'm like that corrupt AD that's on the selection committee that's trying to get all the teams from their conference in.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Well, I guess on that note, we're heading to the patio. It hit 70 freaking degrees here today.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. Only problem is too wet to play golf today. At least for me. I'm sure some people did, but it was a nice reprieve from the winter weather that we've been attacked with over the last month and a half. So
truly attacked. There's still pieces of snow on the ground from the snow that happened in the first week of January.
Which is wild, by the way.
That's wild for Ohio, yeah.
But you could have easily had a patio beer. Maybe I'll venture out there after this. I don't know. But it's still pretty warm outside. I think it's like mid-50s, which, as if you've seen enough videos, like in the Midwest, that is plenty warm enough for a patio beer.
Absolutely. Yeah, my one regret for the day was not sneaking out to a driving range at some point, but, other obligations.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Mondays are tough.
Mondays are tough for that, yeah. All right, so we are here for a patio beer segment. Anything goes on the patio. I'm going to kick us off. Easy question here. Do you pre-wash the dishes before you put them in the dishwasher?
No.
Do you rinse them at least?
No.
Okay.
No. That's psychotic. What?
I don't think so, man. Look, I know a lot of people subscribe to like if your dishwasher is good or it works properly, you don't really need to.
You don't. No, you don't.
But I don't know if it's just the way that I grew up or whatever, but like in our house growing up, you rinsed your dishes before you left them in the sink. And
no.
I subscribe to that method. I still to this day will rinse my dishes before they go in the dishwasher.
It defeats the purpose of having a dishwasher. Like if you're going to rinse it off, you might as well just clean it at that point. I've never done that. I would say that like from just a standpoint, like I guess I shouldn't say I've never done it. Like, dude, like kids love ketchup. Just to avoid a mess of like putting it in and like getting it in the rack. Like if there's a lot of ketchup left over in like one of my kids' plates, I'll like rinse it. I don't like get it all off, but I'm like, I kind of swish it under the water a little bit just to kind of like make sure like I'm not going to plop ketchup on the ground when I'm going to put this thing in.
Right.
So I say that maybe like every once in a while I'll do it, but for the most part, no. But I will say, I know other people do it, but we don't put like our like pans and stuff in there. We don't put our pans in the dishwasher.
A lot of them you shouldn't. Like there's, they're not necessarily machine washable.
Well, we have machine washable pots and pans, and I've been barred from putting them into the dishwasher. I think it defeats the purpose of having dishwasher safe pots and pans. That's a conversation for another day, but I've been barred.
Yeah, part of this reason I'm asking too is because, look, my wife and I have somewhat of a difference of opinion on this. And look, I take it to heart. Honestly, because I work from home, I typically am the one doing the dishes just because I can knock them out, when I'm getting the kids off to school or, if I'm,
that's what I do
after
too.
lunch or whatever. And there's nothing worse than reaching your hands in the sink and just like going through a bunch of old food and stuff's got like, if you had a pasta or something, like the spaghetti on it, So I'm a big proponent of rinse it before you put it in the sink, and then it can go in the dishwasher. That's fine. You don't have to give the full wash, but at least like get the loose impediments. It's like playing in a hazard. You're allowed to remove the loose impediments.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I would say that I'm not going to judge you too hard for doing it. For me, it's just like, it just seems so like just kind of a waste of time. You know what I mean? That's just kind of my stance on it. Like, I'm all about trying to cut down on time. That's fine. Seems like a time sucker.
You have permission to be wrong. It's okay.
Oh God. Oh, all right. Well, I toyed between two questions, and one of the questions was going to open a very fresh wound of mine. So we're going to go down that road.
Okay.
Given the conclusion of the Kentucky-Arkansas game,
I knew this was coming.
It brought up a good thought in my head. So, like, what is it? Not a playoff loss. Playoff losses are different. We're going to put those aside.
Sure.
Like, has there ever been a regular season loss for any of your teams where you're like, damn, like I wanted that so bad?
Oh, God. Probably too many. I mean, if you just look at like the overall like record that the Bengals teams have had within their own division for the last, I don't know how many years, it's very underwhelming. And so there are plenty of Ravens games, Steelers games, etc. over the years that have been incredibly, incredibly frustrating. I would even say like the Chiefs game this year, like the second week of the season, Bengals had just lost to the Patriots, kind of a prove it spot against a team that, is, the team obviously in the league. And then it came down to the way it came down to with the somewhat questionable pass interference call and all that, et cetera, et cetera. That one hurt. Man, there's been a lot of crosstown shootouts, from being a UC fan. Xavier just kind of had their number for, I don't know, it feels like a decade until this year when they finally won. And now the team absolutely stinks. They're like in the basement of the Big 12. So yeah, that crosstown shootout, I wanted it bad this year and they got it, but kind of at what cost, because now they're just horrible. So I mean, there's nothing that are coming to mind that were like pain. I mean, for you, like Calipari coming into UK, Arkansas has not been good. Like, I know that one probably stung.
It hurt.
Yeah,
it hurt. You hit a soft spot on Saturday night. And it's not that I didn't like Calipari. I called him the devil on Saturday. I'd take that back. He's not the devil. I was hurt. Yeah. You know what I was hurt? You know what I was like really worked up about after that game is like when he left, I knew like a lot of the past guys, they wouldn't like hate Kentucky. They don't hate Kentucky, but I they would. I knew they were going to support Cal wherever he went, and it didn't matter. Like he could have gone to Louisville, and they would have supported him, right? What hurt the most is like right before you sent that, Reed Shepherd from last year, who is a Kentucky kid. He's one of us. Like, he grew up a fan. His dad played on a national championship team. His mom played basketball at Kentucky. And he walked into his Houston Rockets game on Saturday night with an Arkansas shirt on. Kentucky shorts on, but an Arkansas shirt. And I was like, of all the people, like, your Anthony Davises and your PJ Washingtons and all that. Like, I knew, like, okay, like, they still like Kentucky, but, like, they're going to support Cal, too. So, like, when they show up and you see pictures of them at the Arkansas facility, it just is what it is. Like, they have a connection to him, right? But, like, for him to do that on that night, I'm like, of all the people, and I was pissed about the picture. I still am. I'm not happy about it. But that loss, regular season wise, for any of my teams, stung the most, for sure.
Yeah.
Because like, I think the best way to put it is, it's like, you break up with this girl and you show up at a bar with a 4 and she shows up with her new guy that's clearly like a 9 or a 10, right? Like, that's how I feel. Like, whoever wins the breakup, right? And now it's one game in college basketball and it shouldn't be judged that way, but it feels that way. It shouldn't be judged that way because Arkansas might even make the tournament. Kentucky's tracking towards like a 3 or 4 seed. But it's almost just like one of those things, like, yeah, you want to win the war, but, like, you also want to win some battles on the way too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But that was obviously that one recently, but I've had some bad ones too. Like, I guess leaving out Ohio State, Michigan's games, like that, to me, that is like a whole nother, like, that is essentially it used to be essentially a playoff game.
Right.
But, like, there's been some Packers ones. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers' last game, like the way he went out when they lost to the Lions, that one killed. That like, it was a regular season, kept them out of the playoffs. I mean, I guess it was essentially a playoff game, even though the Lions had nothing to play for.
Yeah.
Other than just like ruining their season. That one hurt a little bit. Trying to think, like, it's so hard with baseball, like with the Reds, because there's so many games. Like,
Right.
does one game really matter? Does one series really matter? I will say the series, when the Cardinals and the Reds got in that big fight, I really wanted to win those next 2 games. That happened on the Friday night game. They played on, I think they played Saturday, Sunday, Monday, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we lost the rest of those games, actually. Kind of pissed me off, but they ended up kind of getting the best of the Cardinals and making the playoffs that year. And I think they won the division that year. If I could be wrong about that, but I think they ended up winning the division that year. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was kind of one of those things. They got in that fight and you're like, dude, I want to sweep these motherfuckers. And it didn't happen, but I guess that kind of hurt a little bit. But I think those are the main ones that I can remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was trying to think if any of my teams had that scenario like you just had with Cal coming back, and I can't think of any off the top of my head where, like, a prominent player or coach or whatever came back to face them.
Like, Patino came back and Kentucky smoked that Louisville team. Like, that game was not even close, so it didn't hurt. Obviously didn't hurt. But yeah, it's hard. Because regular season, that never stands out to you, right? Like, unless it's like really bad. But
Yeah.
like, the playoff losses always stick out. But I'm trying to think for like the Bengals. I think, if you, I know enough about Bengals games that I could, I think some of those, like the Steelers specifically, the year after they did that to Carson Palmer, I think they lost both of those games, if I'm not mistaken, the next year after they tore his ACL essentially on purpose, but or made a dirty play and tore Carson Palmer's ACL. I think those would have been pretty big regular season games.
Yeah, what one hurt was I think Andy Dalton ended up getting a start for the Cowboys and came into Cincinnati, and the Bengals lost to him.
I do remember that.
And that might have been the Zach Taylor's first. No, because he had Andy Dalton his first year. So I think it might have been the year after Joe Burrow got hurt, his first season. But anyway, losing Andy Dalton, him coming home with another team was a tough scene. So yeah, this year when the Bengals were going through it and they were hadn't won yet, had to go to Carolina to face Andy Dalton. That was a little bit of a terrifying proposition because the Panthers were clearly one of the worst teams in the league, and it was against him. So it was like, please God, win this football game. But that's kind of been the closest thing. I mean, when they faced Carson Palmer, I believe at least once, maybe twice after he moved on.
And
that
the way he moved on too.
Yeah, with why he moved on, that was always a big deal whenever that popped back up. But yeah, not too much bad blood, returning people to my sports teams.
Well, I did forget about a major one. Brett Favre beat the Packers in his first start against them.
Yeah.
I want to say that was 2009. It was Monday Night Football too, which is just that much worse. I do remember that one. That was pretty tough to swallow. But it was also at the same time as the Packers were moving on for him, so it didn't hurt as bad. It wasn't like he was I'm out. It was the Packers were hey, we're moving on Aaron Rodgers now, so it didn't hurt too bad. And I love Brett Favre. That's why I became a Packers fan when he with the Packers in the mid '90s. But yeah, it's hard to remember the regular season ones. But if they do stand out, they were pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very good point. Oh man. Well, hopefully you still got to go to Arkansas, right?
Dude, it's crazy how long the freaking, how long the
season
the
goes.
regular season is. It's just it's insane how long it is.
Well, and there's so many teams in these conferences now too. You may not get every team twice anymore, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they do, though. I could be completely wrong about that. No, they do not. But the way things are tracking seed-wise for their conference tournament, it looks like maybe possibly a collision course, possibly, which could be interesting, given Arkansas might be fighting for their tournament lives in the SEC tournament. So,
yeah,
could be interesting.
All right, well, if that happens, hopefully you get the right side of the ledger this time around. Man. All right, well, that'll do it this week. Episode 90 of the Back Nine Six Pack. Please, if you're still here, smash the like button for us, subscribe to the show, give us a rating, review, follow us on social media at Back Nine Six Pack, and shoot us some fan mail down in the episode description if you want to do that. But appreciate you guys listening, and enjoy the Super Bowl this week.
Yeah, enjoy. Cheers. See ya. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Back Nine Six Pack. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Back Nine Six Pack for all your content needs. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers.